Stop. Pay attention. What you're watching is the most important personal electric vehicle on the market in 2024. You would be wise to listen closely, because the Leaperkim Lynx is not just any electric unicycle. What we're witnessing is the culmination of evolutionary and revolutionary technology coming together for a complete package seen in Leaperkim. After unboxing the Lynx for the first time, I spent about 10 minutes just dialing in the settings and the pads just the way I wanted it. And then I took off like a rocket ship. I may be the last EUC YouTuber in the world to ride and review the Leaperkim Lynx, and this wheel was not what I expected. Many people have called the Lynx the best EUC of 2024, but I don't think that's a fair assessment. I received my Leaperkim Lynx from Next Gen Mobility at an outstanding price. I'm not being paid to say good or bad things about it, so I hope you can believe the things that I'm saying. Despite being a really well-reviewed wheel, the Lynx did have some really big problems early on with batch 1 and 2. This unit, though, has pretty much all of the major issues completely resolved, and now we have a complete package that is ready to ride. My first ride on the Lynx was not awesome. It was not good. It did not meet my expectations in any way. No, that would be an understatement. It was euphoric. It surpassed my expectations so wildly that on my first ride, I even got a bit emotional. This one somehow just got me in the feels. I couldn't take the smile off my face when I rode this for the first time. That's a feeling that I haven't felt riding an electric unicycle in years. Everything about this wheel is so unbelievably smooth in the power delivery. Now, people ask me all the time, hey man, how fast does that thing go? And as any experienced electric unicycle rider knows, that's not the best question to be asking. There's a very significant difference between how fast it goes and how fast you can go on it. Now with the Lynx, it's electronically limited to being able to go 125 kilometers per hour. And that is more than fast enough for any rider. There are very few people in the world that have actually topped out at that speed. And let's be honest, that's extremely dangerous if you actually do hit that speed, because it will cut out on you at that speed and you will go down. Now the speed it can go and the speed you can go are, again, very different. So that's where I have come up with something I like to call happy speed. Happy speed is the top speed that an average skilled rider should be able to go on the street without feeling like if they make a slightly wrong move that they're going to go down and crash instantly. The Begode Extreme has a happy speed of roughly 30 to 35 miles an hour. The Begode Master is about 35 to 40 miles an hour. The Lynx has got a happy speed of about 42 miles an hour. Don't get me wrong, you definitely can go beyond that speed. And in fact, I went beyond that speed on the very first time I went on this. But the average skilled rider should be able to go about 42 miles an hour on the Lynx without too much problems. One amazing feature about the Lynx that really shouldn't seem that amazing is that this is the best braking EUC ever made. The stopping distance on this is very similar to that of a car. I looked up the braking speeds that it takes to go from 30 miles an hour to 0 in a car, which is about 50 feet. Incidentally, I can do the exact same thing with this. Although the Lynx doesn't have traditional car-style brakes, it is able to perform just as well as a car on the road with the braking power that it has. All right, so we had about 2 of them that were about 52, 53 feet, which is roughly equivalent to what any car is capable of doing. So I think it's safe to say that we have finally arrived with the Leaperkim Lynx in terms of braking power. This is, in my opinion, I don't know if this is verifiable fact, but in my opinion, it's the best braking power EUC ever made. And I'm really impressed. This all reminds me of the incredible amount of torque that the Lynx has. This may well be the fastest EUC off the line ever made. And for that reason, the Lynx very well could be the best racing electric unicycle ever made on top of everything else that I've already mentioned. I found it incredibly impressive on the Lynx that I was able to actually do burnouts on it. Now, I'm not able to do it on asphalt, and I'm sure that there are some people that are able to do that, but the fact remains that you're able to do burnouts on this wheel on everything other than asphalt with relative ease. Now, the Lynx is equipped with either 50E or 50S battery cells, and those are all kept on the sides here, right next to your feet. In general, there's a small difference in cost between 50E and 50S battery cells, and the Lynx performs very admirably with each, but I would highly recommend that if you order, you definitely get 50S battery cells. And the reason for that is because of the battery voltage sag characteristics on it. 50E battery cells are unable to output as much power as 50S cells, and because of that, whenever it's outputting a lot of power, its voltage is going to be dropping, and that's going to be especially evident at lower battery states. Now, that's not to say that 50S battery cells don't sag. In fact, when I went on a high-speed ride where I was going between 35 and 40 miles an hour, it was a 23-mile ride. At the end of my ride, there were only 2 out of 8 battery bars remaining. And when I got finally back to my car, the voltage popped back up to 4 battery bars, so just about 50%. But we were sagging all the way down to here, even with 50S batteries. Even so, at 2 battery bars remaining with some pretty heavy voltage sag at the end of my ride, I was hitting second stage beeps at about 40 miles an hour. All things considered, that's not bad. Since we're on the topic of batteries, let's discuss the range on the Lynx. If you're going hard and fast like I was doing the entire time, you can expect to hit about 30 or so miles of very spirited riding. But if you just dial it back just a bit, you can expect about 50 miles of riding on this. Now, the suspension on the Lynx is especially noteworthy. It has 90 millimeters of suspension travel with Fast Ace brand shocks. Something I thought that was really cool about the suspension here is the fact that they have these nice little covers that make it so your legs are not rubbing up against these suspension bits here. All you need to do to adjust the rebound and the compression is a flathead screwdriver. And if you want to adjust the preload, then you can do that using a socket. But personally, I didn't have to do it. I felt like this thing was completely ready to go for me out of the box. It's just so unbelievably smooth and plush. I just feel like I'm riding on a cloud. Now, 90 millimeters of suspension may not seem like a whole lot. After all, there are other brands out there that have more, but this also has a progressive spring. And what that does is that when you go further down on the suspension, as it travels further, it increases the pressure significantly more until you're unable to bottom out pretty much. Okay, you can bottom out, but if you have the suspension dialed in to your own personal settings the way it should be practically impossible to bottom out on the Lynx. Now, there's one more area where the Lynx gets really high marks, and that's for waterproofing. The Lynx has the best waterproof rating out of anywhere in the entire electric unicycle market. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but wait, InMotion has an official waterproof rating. Well, guess who has one that came from outside of their own organization? Leaperkim. Because Leaperkim is really bad at communicating things with the outside general public, this kind of flew under the radar. But the Lynx has IPX6 waterproof rating that they had an outside organization take care of that. Bigode has some level of waterproofing, but it's not waterproof certified. And also, InMotion has gotten waterproof ratings on their EUCs, and they do it according to international standard. However, if it's not done by an outside organization, such as the way they did it with the Lynx, I just have a hard time believing it. So with all that said, I'm going to double down on my statement and say that the Lynx has the best waterproof rating out of any EUC in the entire market. The Lynx may also be the safest electric unicycle on the market for multiple reasons. Number one, the firmware is designed so it will ignore the hall sensor data above about 3 miles per hour. So if the hall sensor goes bad somehow or the cable gets disconnected, it's not going to instantly drop you on the ground if you're traveling at speed. Next, we have a motor blocking feature. So if it's being pushed up against a hard object, such as a wall, it's not going to continue to push against that wall and heat up the motor and heat up the main board until something fries. That's another awesome safety feature. Also, we have smart BMS on this, and that is a fantastic feature for something with lithium-ion batteries, because as we all know, lithium-ion batteries are all bombs, and electric unicycles in the past have had some fire issues. So it's really nice to know at the cell level which cell is bad if it is, and know exactly what the voltages are. Then we have the biggest safety feature of all, in my opinion, the 20-point quality control inspection that is done on every single Leaperkim wheel. That's something that's not to be understated here. No other EUC manufacturer goes to the lengths that Leaperkim does as far as quality control is concerned. That's why they have such ridiculously high fit and finish. That's why you don't hear almost any time that there's screws missing, nothing is loose, no motor bolts are missing, nothing like that. Everything is as it should be, so you can feel confident in going on your very first ride, taking it straight out of the box. Really, not enough people talk about this, but the 20-point quality control inspection that's done on every single EUC that comes out of Leaperkim's factory is absolutely huge. And personally, that gives me a lot of confidence in buying their products in the future. Let's discuss the pads that come with it on the Lynx. It depends on your retailer, but some of them will include these pads that come from Beidou. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I'm running with it. Beidou. These pads that come with it are actually pretty good. They're not the best out there, and they are not 3D printed. They are made out of, I think, molded foam, but they are pretty good, and I don't see a major reason for having to get all new pads, but for some manufacturers, they don't include these at all. In fact, they only include the toe stops that are included here, which are adjustable height. Unfortunately, the toe stops that come with it are just too small. They just don't lock your foot in the way that they should. So for that reason, I have a set that I got from vertexpads.com, which significantly increased the size of it and make it so it's possible to lock your foot in. Also, for those people that want to get a pedal lowering kit, these make it actually compatible to use with the pedal lowering kit. You cannot have your foot locked in and have the stock toe locks here. It's just not going to work unless you have something bigger to go around your foot here. So allow me to reiterate this for those in the back. If you get it from some vendors, all it's going to have is this toe lock, and you will have no pads, and you are going to have to buy pads if you don't get them included in the box already. So definitely inquire with your vendor before you buy this wheel, just to see if you have to spend an extra $100+ on a set of pads. Now that I've gushed as much as I have about the Lynx, let's talk about some of the gripes. We have had some problems with this wheel. Number one, it doesn't come with a seat. That one that I got is from grizzlypads.com, and it works all right. Not my first choice, but it'll do. The problem is that if you plan on riding seated, you really want to have a seat, and so you're going to be having to spend a little bit extra money with that. Also, the charger that came with the wheel is not good. That's a bit of an understatement, in fact. It's bad. The chargers that come with this are not calibrated to the correct voltage that it should be at. It'll charge at 5 amps at the set voltage that you want it to be, but it requires cracking it open and setting it. Personally, my charger was set to charge at 152 volts. That's 0.8 volts higher than what it should be. But then there are some other users that have their chargers going all the way up to 155 volts. That is really dangerous territory. Fortunately, it's easy to fix, but this is not the way it should be out of the box. You're paying $4,100, $4,200-ish US dollars on this wheel. You expect there to be absolute perfection. This is a very expensive wheel that should be perfect. Even though Leaperkim doesn't make this charger, I believe they outsource this, it should be charging at 151.2 volts, which is exactly what the max voltage is on the Lynx. The next complaint I have about the Lynx is the pedals. We just have these bumps here because this whole thing is just made out of cast aluminum or something, but they're just very slippery. You can move your foot around way too much with these bumps, so I recommend getting a fresh set of pedals as well. It's not absolutely awful, and it is really nice at how big these pedals are and how lightweight they are, but these bumps are just no good for keeping your foot locked in place. Next, the charging port is just not in a very convenient location. It's pretty deeply recessed inside the wheel, and you have to be able to just kind of dig in there to get access to it. This is not a deal breaker, it's just kind of strange and inconvenient, so I wasn't a fan of that. Last complaint about the Lynx, and this is a bit of a big one, is that the PWM ratings on this wheel are just not accurate. This was first reported by Ronan, who got an early model of the Lynx from eWheels, and he actually caught a lot of flack from people online because he was going really fast on it, and it was saying that there was hardly any safety margin left on the wheel. But as it turns out, it just wasn't accurately reporting it, and so it still has not been fixed. I think it's primarily to do with the smart field weakening on this wheel, where it just doesn't report very accurately, and I don't think Leaperkim is really in the mood to try to help out the makers of EUC World or Darkness Spot. It's just like, use our app or don't, we don't care, but we're not going to be chatting too much with you about it. The reason why this is a problem is because sometimes people might not actually hear the beeps on the wheel. If you're going 45 to 50 plus miles an hour, it's going to be potentially really hard to hear over that wind noise and hear those beeps. And for that reason, you want to have an app like EUC World or Darkness Spot that's able to transmit the alarms straight to your ear or whatever Bluetooth speaker you have, whether it's a Cardo or just any sort of headphones. It's really good to be able to hear those alarms, and not having that available to Lynx owners is really detrimental. Let's talk about post-purchase recommendations and post-purchase requirements. The Lynx's MSRP price is $4,200. So for that price tag, I expect absolute perfection in every way. This wheel should be complete, but it's not. For starters, the Lynx needs to have pads. And again, not every vendor includes pads. So you should expect to pay around $100 to $200 on a decent set of pads. Next, if you plan on riding seated, you have to get a seat on this. It's just not comfortable to ride without a seat. So tack on an extra $100. Next on the list, we have to get an additional set of toe locks because the ones that are included on here are just no good. You can actually remove this whole mechanism and get a set of normal pads without having to use this toe lock mechanism, but that's totally optional. So tack on an extra $40 or so for improved toe locks. So with the suggested retail price of $4,200 plus all those post-purchase requirements, we're looking at $4,440. That is a fat price tag. But now let's talk about post-purchase recommendations. As I discussed earlier, you probably want to get a fresh set of pedals. These pedals are just not that great. You can definitely get away with having these pedals if you use a Dremel tool and grind down all of these just a little bit to make them sharper. Otherwise, I highly recommend E-Ride's pedals. They're my personal favorite. They're ridiculously durable, and they have concave risers on the heel and toe to really be able to lock your foot in properly. So add on an average of about $260 for a fresh set of pedals. Altogether, with all of those add-ons, we're looking at $4,700 US. We are in the astronomical price range. This is an absolute Gucci wheel. This is really, really expensive. At $4,700 with all of those add-ons, it should be able to file your taxes for you. It should be able to mow your lawn, do your dishes, fold your laundry. It should be vacuuming my floors at home. But instead, what we have is just a really, really, really ridiculously good ride. The beauty of the Lynx is that it appeals to such a huge slice of the population. This is for so many different kinds of people. If you want to get into EUC racing, the Lynx is for you. If you want to get into hardcore trail riding, the Lynx is for you. If you're a casual commuter, the Lynx is for you. If you're into high-speed road riding, the Lynx is for you. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but if you have deep pockets and you're an absolute beginner, yes, the Lynx might even be just for you. Keep in mind though, again, because this is a very expensive wheel, when you're in the learning process, you will be banging up the wheel a lot. It's very normal for that to happen. So just remember that if you're an absolute beginner, this is definitely an EUC that you can learn on, but expect that the resale value should go down a bit as you learn because it's gonna get beat up. Again, the Lynx is just so appealing to so many people because this wheel is something that you cannot possibly outgrow this EUC. There is no point where you're gonna be thinking, I feel like I should be able to go faster on this. The incredible thing about the Lynx is that it appeals to so many different consumers. The best EUC riders in the world and absolute beginners can both enjoy the Lynx. And that's something that is not really seen by many other EUCs. Now, that doesn't mean that the Lynx is the best of the best at everything. In fact, there are other EUCs that are better than the Lynx at a number of different categories. For example, if you need something that goes greater than 50 miles regularly, then the Lynx may not be for you. If you feel like you need to go faster than 42 miles an hour, which is the wheel's happy speed, then you might want to be selecting something with a larger wheel diameter. If you need greater than 50 miles of high-speed riding, then the Lynx may not be for you. There are other wheels out there that are better than the Lynx at that. This is not exactly a high-speed touring EUC. If you're thinking about doing that, then I would suggest something more along the line of the Master Pro or the EX30. However, a 27 watt-hour battery is pretty impressive, and the wheel is deceptively lightweight. So you're able to get a lot of range on this for the size that it is. Also, if your Lynx is completely dead, you can charge it at a 220 volt outlet, lightning quick at 15 amps. If you need the utmost high-speed stability, then the Lynx may not be for you. Yes, it goes fast, really fast, but it doesn't have a very strong gyro effect, which is present on some other EUCs. If you want something that is really stable at extremely high speeds, then I might suggest something such as the Master Pro instead of the Lynx. Lastly, if you hate fun, then the Lynx is not for you. Now, what conclusions can we make about the Lynx? Yeah, there are wheels out there that have more battery capacity. There are wheels out there with better range, better high-speed stability, among other things. The interesting thing about the Lynx is that it has only a 151 volt system, and we're in an era of 168 volt EUCs now. And it has a only 3200 watt motor. So given those specs, this really shouldn't be as impressive as it is. But it's greater than the sum of its parts, and it's far more than meets the eye. What Leaperkim has done with the specs that they've packed inside this wheel is something that I can only describe as magical. I have thus far ridden all of the fastest and most high-speed electric unicycles out there on the market today. And out of all of them, 10 times out of 10, I would pick the Lynx. It is, in my opinion, an insult to call this the electric unicycle of the year for 2024. No, this is the electric unicycle of the century. This is by far the singularly most remarkable personal electric vehicle that I have ever ridden. To put it bluntly, this is the electric unicycle that checks the boxes for pretty much everyone. This is by far the singularly most remarkable personal electric vehicle ever made. There is nothing else quite like it on the market. This is the wheel of the people. This is the best EUC ever made. This is the Leaperkim Lynx.